Hello all, welcome to Engineering Talks. I'm Omkar, host and founder of Engineering Talks. I hope you are enjoying our Engineering Talks series. Today is our fourth episode. We have Mr. Ankur Srivastava on the board today, the man with 4 decades of experience in chemical industry. He started his career from 1984. He graduated from Bangalore University. So Ankur means new in layman terms, or new bird or blossom. So I I'm thinking that your journey is all about starting new every time with same level of energy, with positive approach and strong resistivity. So how this Ankur becomes mighty banyan tree, and how was the journey of these 4 decades of experience?
Yeah, so thank you, Omkar. Um, I I actually graduated in '85 and uh, actually started my career in '85 itself in a company called Transpec Industries in Vadodara. It was an inorganic chemical plant. We used to control the process by manually throttling valves. There were no control valves. So because of that, there were a lot of fumes coming out. So it was not very healthy. I didn't stay there for long because I was falling sick. So I left. And then I got an opportunity to work in a company called Sri Synthetics in Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh. So that was a ICI plant, polyester plant. So that is how my journey in polyester started. It was a batch process plant manufacturing polyester pellets, which were used for making yarn, synthetic yarn, polyester. And in those days, it was considered a very promising field, this polyester, because it was called as white gold. And the Reliance had not yet come into the picture at that time. So there were some other companies like Sri Synthetics, Orke, JK Synthetics. All these companies were making, they had batch plants and they were doing fantastically well. As I said, at that time it was called as white gold. So it was a really a great start. I was in Sri Synthetics, and then I got engaged to be married. Got married also after 1 year, but then decided that I was not making enough money to have a family, so I changed my job. I got a job in, you must have heard of the company which used to make LML Vespa scooters. So
Yes,
they
yes.
had, so at that time LML and Bajaj were competitors, and LML was picking up a market because most of the LML scooters were only assembled here. They were imported from Vespa in Italy, and they were being assembled here. So LML was making Lohia Machines Limited. So they were making waves. They had bought a second-hand plant from Monsanto in US, and they were installing the plant in a place called Khatima, now known as Udham Singh Nagar. That was, at that time it was part of Uttar Pradesh, but then now it is part of Uttarakhand, sorry.
Yes.
So I took up a job as a shift engineer there, worked for almost 3 years in that plant. Operations, manufacturing, again it was a batch plant making textile grade and film grade polyester. Uh, Now Reliance had just come into the picture at that time. They had just started and they were making big strides. Uh, at Patal Ganga, they had started operations, and Then this company called Deccan Cements Limited, part of the family of the Na- Nagarjuna Fertilizers, you must be knowing. So
Yes.
they decided to put up a plant in Nagpur. So, and that was a continuous plant, and that was a brand new technology from a German company called a Swiss company called EMS Inventa, German and Swiss and German company, Carl Fischer Technology. So they were looking for people, and I took the opportunity and joined them. And the plant was brand new. For the first time, we came to know what is a distributed control system, because that plant was the first plant where that was way back in '89. So the first time we were trained for distributed
This is
Taylor Systems BCS in Faridabad, and it was a good plant. And the promoters were backed by uh, PV Narasimha Rao, or ex Prime Minister. Our managing director MB Raju was the godson of PV Narasimha Rao. So uh, he also he had actually helped in acquiring land and all that, and place called Moda between Nagpur and Bhandara. So I joined there. I joined as a senior engineer production, and I was there for almost 6 years. Uh, by that time, Reliance had become really big, very fast work. The Patalganga complex was in full swing. They had acquired land in Hazira, and They had started constructing other more polyester plants, all DuPont technology. Then there was a plant which was coming up in Baroda by a company called Modern Textiles. So Modern Petrophils was the plant. So they offered me a big hike, and I became production manager. I was already assistant manager when I left DCL Polyesters. DCL Polyesters was subsequently taken over by Reliance. So I joined Modern Petrophils. In hindsight, it was not a very good wise step, because I was working with a bunch of very unethical people. So I realized that I wouldn't last long here. Anyways, I continued, and I worked there for 1 year. And uh, after that, I voluntarily resigned and left the company. And uh, despite the fact that I didn't have a job, but then I was not willing to continue with these people. So after about couple of months, I worked in my last production company called Mahendra Shootings in Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad happens to be my hometown, my parents' home basically. And I joined Mahendra, but by that time I had my fill with production jobs. I wanted to get out, and I used to do a lot of engineering during my working as a production engineer, writing. That time we didn't have laptops, we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything. And we used to use a calculator and a pen and paper notebook to make calculations and all that. I was always fond of it, so I started doing all that uh, uh, during my earlier career also. So when I was in Mahindra Shootings, I received a call from a company called Chemtex. Now there was a reason, because Chemtex was licensing polyester technology, DuPont technology, which was basically the technology which Reliance was using. So they wanted people, they were getting a lot of business at that time. This was way back in 1996. So I was called and interviewed, and they asked me whether I knew anything about engineering design. So the only thing I did was I said I know a little bit, not an expert. Well, have you done some work? So I had taken my notebooks full of calculations from stoichiometry to preliminary material balance calculations and all that. So I showed it to the process head. He actually opened my notebook, took some time to study it, and then he was very pleased and he said, uh, I'm offering you a job. Would you like to join us? So I joined Chemtex. I left my job in Ahmedabad in Mahindra Shootings. It was in heart of Mumbai in Hiranandani Gardens. At
In
that
Powai.
time, yeah, in Hiranandani Gardens, Powai. So I came to Navi Mumbai because I Mumbai was beyond my imagination to afford living in Mumbai. I had hardly any money. So I went to Navi Mumbai, which was far more cheaper. And I stayed with my cousin. There was a cousin sister of mine for a couple of months, and then I took a house on rent in Navi Mumbai. This place in Navi Mumbai is called as Nerul. So now you can't recognize it because at that time when I took it in 96, 90, early 97, there was only one building in that area, Nerul West. So I took a house on rent. I paid my deposit because in Mumbai the system was always there to pay 1 year's rent as deposit. So I paid my deposit. It was a government building. I paid my deposit in installments because I couldn't afford to pay that much money. My family was in Baroda at that time because my son was studying earlier one. Younger son was born in Baroda only. And then I called my family. So after coming there in Mumbai, things suddenly started looking up for me. And it was because I was not from a design background. I had almost spent 11 more than 11 years in manufacturing. So it was an uphill struggle. But there were some very good motivational factors because there were some people who were only from engineering background. So they said something which motivated me further, and what they said was that you are from operations background, manufacturing background, you won't probably fit in the organization. So you should go back to operations. This is not your cup of tea. So I told some of my colleagues who were in a way mocking me that I will talk about this 1 year later. I'll ask you then that whether I fit into the organization. And I broke my back. I was working, I was leaving my house at 7 and reaching office. I was traveling from Navi Mumbai to Hiranandani Gardens, Powai, almost took 1.5 hours. And in the evening, I used to stay behind after office ended at 5:30, not because it was project work. I used to stay for my own learning. So by the time I used to reach home, it would be already 9 o'clock or 9:30. So you can imagine leaving 7 and coming back at 9:30, sometimes even 10 o'clock. So that was my routine. Saturdays was a holiday, but I used to regularly go. And subsequently, I was involved in projects where we had a lot of projects at that time. So uh, I was involved in the projects also. And then I was given a very good challenge about making a standard package for a 300 tons per day polyester plant design. And I was very happy to be involved in that. During that time, this Windows 95 had just come in. There were only 4 desktop computers in a team of around 40 people. So 10 designers and around 27, 28 engineers. So the engineers had only 4 desktop computers. And when I had joined, I didn't even know how to operate a computer. And then I wanted my boss, Mr. Satish Burde, I am very grateful to him. My immediate boss, he was chief engineer. So he was very good at Excel. So Mr. Burde used to make calculations, engineering calculations, line sizing calculations, this calculation, that calculation. He himself used to do it. So I was very envious of him, and um, I told him we used to, and in the meantime I learned some Marathi also because I was in Mumbai. So and I wanted to learn, so I used to often talk to him. So I told him मला पण शिकवायचं आहे. So he said, no, Ankur, I will not spoon feed you. You have to struggle yourself and learn.
Learn by yourself.
Yes, I will not spoon feed you. You start doing it, and then when you get stuck somewhere, please come and talk to me and I'll solve your problem. But sitting with you and spoon feeding you, that is not how I will teach you. That is not the way you will learn or be confident. So I used to sit at office after office hours, trying to figure out, and that time Windows 95 and all, trying to save my work. Many times it happened that the computer crashed. I couldn't save my work. Really frustrating. After spending couple of hours, you find that your work which you have done, you couldn't save. Getting stuck up, formulas not getting uh, properly, showing errors. But I persevered. So I just kept on pressing and all that. So uh, slowly and slowly I started picking up. And that is where my love affair started, with doing calculations using Excel as a tool. And but I was very practical I was not the kind who was go see. We learned our in thermodynamics and fluid mechanics and mass transfer and heat transfer in college. Now, not this was not the time to go back to fundamentals. This was the time to apply those fundamentals in real life engineering. So in the back of the mind, you had the basics and the backgrounds, but I didn't have to go and revise my laws of thermodynamics or the laws of fluid mechanics again and again, or keep on passing that on. I had to apply them. So that is what I was doing. I was basically applying what we had learned in college, those basics, into practical applications of engineering, like line sizing, like uh, equipment sizing, like doing calculations related uh, to heat exchangers, to uh, towers, distillation columns. All that was being applied practically because the basics and the background was already there. I didn't have to write down all the thermodynamics and the the convection, conduction and radiation formulas for me to. I had to apply them to do actual sizing calculations. So this is what I was doing, and this is what I liked, and this was what was required, because the engineering is application, not theory. I see a lot of people still talk a lot about. I appreciate that. I'm not against it. But the fact is that we as engineers are supposed to apply our knowledge, our background to solutions, practical solutions of design, of of having equipment sizes, having layouts, having PNIDs, having process flow diagrams, having heat and mass balance. So this is where the practical application comes. So this is where I spent. This is where my focus was, to actually apply things into real engineering. And there were some very good opportunities. The standard package, I was almost single-handedly, with Mr. Burde guiding me, single-handedly prepared. And then I was already from operations background. So one of the big challenges that came was to write a operating manual for a polyester plant with DuPont technology. None of my colleagues could handle it because they were all totally theoretical. I also feel that my operations background helped me a lot in understanding the the design part of it, because design also, without using some practical knowledge or practical background, you can't have a optimum design. You can design something, but that optimum or practical design will not come out. If you have a operations background, it is always going to help anybody. So a lot of engineers, young engineers, they I get messages from them saying that I want to switch from operations. I am not liking it. So operations is not, there is nothing wrong with operations because it gives you a practical view of uh, what things are and how things should be, what equipment should be, what is its function, not just applying equations. So that was a very great advantage I had because I had actually operated those equipment which we were designing. So I knew the pros and cons and the loopholes in design, which many of my colleagues were not aware because they were doing everything on paper. They were only applying equations
Right.
without actually understanding. So there definitely I had an advantage. And after 1 year, as I said, I my some of my colleagues who were a little bit skeptical about me able to cope up, they said, we are sorry, we take back our words. You have assimilated, integrated very well, even much better than many of us. But I had to struggle a lot. I had to work my back off for all this to happen. Uh, at the cost of my family life, I had to struggle, and but I caught up and I became a very valuable member of my team. Uh, by that time, China, I stayed in Chemtex for 8 years. Okay, the longest stint I have had in my career in a company. So by the end of the 6th or 7th year, business had started going down. Polyester, China had started dominating. They had developed in-house technologies or stolen technologies, and the Chinese were, you know, had started dominating this polyester technology or polyester business. And in India, it had become a one-man show. Reliance had taken over all other small companies, or they had created a situation where the other small companies had to shut down. So it was a monopoly business. And then after China took over, the polyester business started going down. So the company had a setback, financial setbacks and all that. And there were financial difficulties to the employees also, including salary cuts and this and that. And then there were layoffs also from the company. A lot of people were laid off in a span of a few days itself. I was I was assured that I am not being laid off because I'm still a very valuable member and all that. But I could realize that the situation was getting out of control and I had to move on. It was 8 years also. So, but it was not the number of years which made me may which made me to think that whether I should continue. It was the organizational inability to handle employees, to handle business, that made me switch. And one of the compelling reasons was that I had taken up a apartment in Navi Mumbai, uh, my first property, small one, and I had a loan and I had an EMI to pay. So my package with a salary cut was not good enough to make my ends meet. So I had to switch. Uh, Not because I was really keen on switching, but I realized that I had no option. So took a chance, and then I joined a sales and marketing job. Not because I liked sales and marketing, it was because I had to pay my EMIs. So I took up that job, and it was with a company which is the world's largest filtration company. If you have heard of Paul Corporation. So
Yes.
so I joined Paul India in uh, Vidya Vihar, which is near Kurla, if you are aware of Mumbai.
Yes.
So it was the office of Paul was there. I joined there solely because of monetary considerations, not because I wanted to be in sales and marketing. There are sometimes compulsions which make you take decisions which, although you may not like, but you are forced to take such decisions. So I joined there. I had the opportunity to travel to the US and to Indonesia and Nepal, because sales job requires traveling. So US visit was first time was for training purposes, because our Paul's factory was in Florida and they wanted me. I was looking after the metallic filter division, which was related to polymers, because these metallic filters you are used for polymer filtration. So that was the background on the basis of which the company had selected me. So I worked for a year. I was pulling on, not really very satisfied with my job. And suddenly one fine day, one of my seniors, who was in Chemtex, my boss in piping department, he had left the company a couple of years back, and he had joined Bechtel in Saudi Arabia. So one fine day, there was no mobile at that time, landline was there, so I received a call, and he asked me to join Bechtel in Saudi Arabia. We had worked together, and we had a good rapport, and he he wanted somebody reliable, and hardworking, and somebody who could support him in the office in Saudi Arabia. So that was a radical change in my life, because it had nothing to do with polyester or polymers. And that was the year 2005, and I left polyester, and I almost after 20 years I left polyester, and I got involved with the oil and gas industry, because Bechtel was doing with business for Saudi Aramco. A totally new transition for me. And then uh, again, joining Bechtel was a blessing, because Bechtel is a really good organization, and the online exposure to Bechtel engineering practices and all that, we had a great we had access to all that great design and engineering stuff from Bechtel, and since I was always keen to learn, I picked it up very fast. I was there for almost 2 years, but before I left Bechtel a few months back, there were some issues of the company because we were part of the GES contractors, General Engineering Services. Bechtel Saudi had some issues with Saudi Aramco, so related to the contractual requirements. So Saudi Aramco officially didn't say anything or do anything, but uh, clandestinely or without indicating anything, they stopped giving work to Bechtel. This was Bechtel, but it was called as Saudi Arabian Bechtel Company, or SAPCO. So the work stopped coming from Bechtel. So I sat idle in the office for almost 3-4 months doing nothing, only studying engineering stuff. And then one fine day, I felt that I was getting paid for doing nothing, and this was beyond my. Already 3 months had passed, and I realized that this situation is not really going to improve, and I don't want to sit idle and make money. That's not my purpose in life. So I started looking for another job. So I immediately got an opportunity from Tebodin in Abu Dhabi. So they hired me, and I left Sapco and went to Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, Tebodin was a well-established company at that time, Tebodin Middle East, and one of the greatest challenges or jobs which I had in my career was in Tebodin, because they asked me to. There was a new job which had come when I had joined, and I came to know that a new job has been offered to Tebodin, and that was related to the ADNOC offshore, which was at that time called as ADMA OPCO. So they wanted to make some engineering standards. So a couple of my colleagues in Tebodin had already refused. They were close to the head. So they had already refused to take up this assignment because it was a really tough and challenging assignment. I was a little bit naive because I used to feel happy about taking new challenges and all that. So when I was asked whether I would take this up, I said immediately, I said yes, not knowing the hurdles which would be presented to me in the time to come. So I took up this opportunity to. It was really tough because I had a client who was whose team members, some of them, while they were good, some of them were very stubborn people, very rigid in their approach. I had to study a lot. I had to study almost all the standards available, all API standards, all British Petroleum standards, all Shell design engineering practices, all petroleum development PDO standards. I had to study a hell of a lot to prepare this time. So the outcome was that I prepared, but the problem was that the schedule of these standards, the time frame, the timeline for these standards was very small. There was a big miscalculation on the part of the company's management to find out how much time it will take to make these standards. Huge miscalculation. Every standard they had calculated would be over in within a span of 1.5 months. Practically impossible because I had made a operating manual for in Chemtex, and it had taken, that operating manual had taken me slightly more than 6 months. So I was aware of the timeline, and I was very shocked that this kind of timeline had been committed. But I had already taken it up. So there was a lot of heartburn. There was a lot of complaints from the client side that the schedule has gone for a shed, gone to the dogs. Nothing is being done on time. But some people from the client side also realized that that schedule which was given for this was totally unrealistic, totally impractical. So I continued. A lot of brickbats. Top management was not willing to listen. I prepared drafts for 4 standards. One was for process design, another was for sampling, another sampling systems, another was for drain standards, drain systems, and the fourth one was for vent and depressure, and that is relief systems and flare and all that. Four drafts were prepared. Even today, some of actually this task came because ADNOC had a fight with British Petroleum. BP was their partner, so BP refused to give them their updated standards, and ADNOC took it as an offense, as an affront, and they decided to uh, make their own standards. So that is where this job came. The drafts were sent, they were being reviewed. Meantime, after doing so much of hard work, I was being cursed that I had totally lost track of time of the project, and uh, things were not going very well for me. So but on the personal front, these 4 standards, they opened my horizons. I learned a lot, immensely, about what oil and gas is. I mean, it was a huge, giant step forward to understand what oil and gas business is all about. Oil and gas engineering is all about. So for me, personally, it was very rewarding. Company-wise, it was not so rewarding, but personally, it was very rewarding. Meantime, one of my other bosses, the one who had actually interviewed me in Chemtex, another LITN, a lot of LITNs I had worked with. You know LIT, Lakshmi
Yes,
Narayan
I'm
Institute of
from the
Eh,
LIT.
Oh, you are an LITN. Wow. Sorry, I didn't read. So again, Mr. Dao, who was LIT Nagpur graduate and then MTech from IIT Bombay, he had joined a company called Mott MacDonald in Muscat in Oman. So he was trying to reach me, and then one fine day he somehow got my number and he called me and he said, Ankur, you have to come to Muscat. I said, sir, I'm already working. No, no, I don't want to hear anything from you. You just come over. So that is the time I decided to leave. I spent around 1 year and 3 or 4 months in Tebuden, and then left Tebuden and joined Muscat, uh, Mott MacDonald. I spent almost another 2 years in Muscat. I had no plans to leave, but then uh, my father fell sick in India, so I had to come back to India. And after 2 years, and I joined Mott India in Andheri, but it was not for me. Mott India was totally different from what Mott Muscat was. Uh, and I used to travel a lot to Ahmedabad to see my father, and my father recovered also. But I left Mott because I couldn't fit into Mott India, and then I joined Punjloid in Hyderabad. Thermal engineering and all that. Again, it was new for me, but I took up the challenge. But thermal engineering business actually is a very low paying. If you do engineering for thermal power plants, the man-hour rates are very low. It's not a very profitable business because down south in Chennai and in Hyderabad, a lot of small consultants who are doing this business. So the business was, after joining, the couple of months later, realized that the business was not doing well. And then Punjloid, which had invested a lot of money in Libya, they lost a lot of money because of the Libyan civil war. So they had huge losses within a very short span. So they decided to close the Hyderabad office and keep only the office in Gurgaon. I had actually, they had asked me for Gurgaon or the Hyderabad office, and I had actually opted for Hyderabad. So they decided to close down. In the meantime, and I was, because I was a little bit worried, because now what? I mean, if they close down and I'm not going to Gurgaon, what will happen? But I was being pursued by a company called TR Engineering in Muscat, Technicas Reunidas. So I had said no to them a couple of times. Sorry, then I'm not interested. My father had recovered quite a bit at that time, but they were very insistent. So when I realized that Gurgaon, this Hyderabad office is closing down, then I said yes, I will join them. So I went to Muscat, joined TRS. That was in Punjloid also. I was head of department with about 5 or 6 people. In TR engineering, the team was much bigger. So we had around 25 people, including designers, 3, 4 designers and rest all engineers. So I joined as head of the department in TR engineering in Muscat. and was continuing there. I stayed there for 3 years, and then my father fell sick again, cancer this time. That time it was not diagnosed, but my father fell sick again. He was diagnosed with cancer, so I had to leave again, Muscat, and came back to India and joined. But I had to work, so I had no. I was supposed to travel frequently to Ahmedabad to see my father. But I wanted to work, so I took up a job in a company in Thane, Pyramid. Again, that was the only option I had at that time. It was a mistake. I couldn't fit into the organization. I realized it from day one that I had made a mistake. I was not inclined to work in such a company. But I continued for a year. But then things went over my head and I quit. I quit after 1 year. Again without a job. I had no job. So I was at home for a few months, almost 8 months or so I was at home. At that time I was at Ahmedabad with my father, who was sick. Stayed with my parents, leaving my family here in Mumbai. Then Pyramid, after Pyramid I was sitting idle, and then one fine day L&T Technology Services, they contacted me and they asked me to join them. So, but the assignment was for Saudi Arabia. So this was my, so they wanted somebody to manage because they had an account for SABIC. So they wanted me to take up the SABIC account in Saudi Arabia in a place called Al Jubail. Earlier, when I had joined Saudi Bechtel, I was in Al Quba. This was in Al Jubail. So I went to Al Jubail on a condition that after 1 year, I will not continue as site manager. I'll come back. So after 1 year, I came back and joined Baroda office, L&T Knowledge City of Technology Service. In hindsight, it was a mistake because I was pretty comfortable in Saudi. There was nothing wrong there. And my father's cancer was. And actually, my father, when I joined when I joined L&T, it was a couple of months before that my father passed away by cancer, and then I joined L&T. So coming back to Baroda was a mistake because I couldn't fit into the Baroda office in L&T. I should have continued in Saudi, but you also make mistakes and you learn from them. Anyways, I stayed there for a few months and then decided that I should be back with my family in Mumbai. So I was looking for a job. Then I got a job in a European company called Europem. So I joined. They were based in Belgium. They were based in Belgium and Brussels. So I joined them. So for me, I thought I had come out of the frying pan, but actually I came out of the frying pan and jumped into the fire because this company was not doing financially well, and I don't know on what basis they decided that they wanted to hire me. For them also it was a mistake. It was a few months down the line they said they are not doing financially well. So they actually asked me to quit. So I said fine, I'll quit. So after Europem, I uh, I was I again sat at home for a few months, and then I was offered a job in Abu Dhabi. Everywhere I have been twice, in Oman twice, in Saudi twice, and then in UAE twice. So this was small engineering company called MUC Middle East in Abu Dhabi. Again, the guy, Indian guy, was a head from UP. So he was very insistent. Please come, please come. I said, I'm nearing 60. I'm not really very keen. But he was very insistent. So they gave me a 1-year contract and I joined. They had some big projects lined up and all that. It was owned by a Lebanese guy. The company was owned by, but again, for me, sitting idle is better than sitting idle. So I joined. But then some of the big contracts they were doing, they lost all those contracts. The EPC, they were subcontractors to the EPC contractors. So the EPC contractor themselves lost a lot of money. That time there was a oil crisis. Oil prices had gone down and all that. So a lot of EPC contractors were losing a lot of money. So they also lost the contracts and all that. So after 1 year, they said, we are not going to renew your contract. I said, fine. So I went home after 1 year. And then after coming home, within a couple of months, COVID started. So when COVID started, you are aware, Omkar, that leave aside people getting hired, people were fired from companies.
Yes.
So so there was no job for me, senior person like me. So almost the entire COVID period I was at home. It was only in August 2021. So this was from right beginning of 2020 till August 2021. I was at home sitting idle, but doing my work. As you know, I'm very passionate about writing a lot on LinkedIn, making a lot of posts on LinkedIn. So in August 2021, I joined this company called VCare Engineering in Baroda. And I was there for 1 year and 3 months, 2 months. When my contract got over, they also said that we don't want to renew. I was past 60 at that time, so I could only work on a contract basis. So my contract was not renewed, but I immediately got an offer from this startup company called Imagine. You must have seen my last profile. So Imagine was established, and my mother was staying alone in Ahmedabad. So for my mother, it was a blessing because she knew that now he has to stay with me. She was alone. So for me, it was also good because I would be staying at home with my mother. So I joined Imagine. So I was there in Imagine starting October of 2022, and in April and something, they decided that they were shifting their base from Ahmedabad to Noida, Gurgaon. I did not want to go to Noida and Gurgaon, and they probably also were not doing business. What is the condition of startups? There is a 70% failure rate of startups in India. So this was part of that 70%, this startup. So I left. And now I left in April end, and July I got this offer from Philsep. Yes. Now the company where I am working right now since July is owned by a chemical engineer. They are into manufacturing of separation and filtration equipment like filters, separators, two-phase separators, three-phase separators, cyclones, multi-cyclones, lube oil skids, heat exchangers, shell and tube and air-cooled heat exchangers, filter coalescers, and the company is doing good business in Middle East. They have a lot of inquiries from Middle East. So I was sitting idle, so I decided to move to Baroda again.
Philosophy is in Ahmedabad.
No, Philsep is in Baroda.
Okay.
So since July I am in Philsep, staying in Baroda, coming to on weekends to meet my. Today I am speaking from Ahmedabad because I am with my mother at my mother's home. So this is my complete career journey, what I have explained. Now to
Yes.
come to uh, why even now I feel so passionate about doing engineering work. I'm
Yes.
not a theoretician. I'm a very practical engineer. I still like to do engineering design calculations. I am doing some very good work. For the first time, I am going to establish a test bench for testing of a new design of cyclone systems in my company, and I have done the engineering part of it myself. Uh, of course, it has any engineering work which you do has to be peer reviewed. That means if I do some work, somebody else has to review it. If somebody else does the work, that engineering work has to be
Viewed by
another.
someone.
Yeah, it has to be reviewed by someone. Now, another important thing which to have a paper design and say that, oh, my design is done. It's now you go and straight away make the equipment and sell it. You can't do that. That is not the way you can. If I design something, see, I can design a uh, uh, 1:2 shell and tube heat exchanger because those are standard designs. Okay, I can design a two-phase vertical separator knockout drum because those are standard designs. They are already benchmarked. But if I
Yes.
am developing something new, some new design, it has to be benchmarked. How do you benchmark a design? You make a test bench and you test it on that test bench for its performance. Maybe at a smaller scale, and then you uh, extrapolate your design results for a bigger equipment within certain boundaries, and then come out with a industrial scale or a bigger scale design. That is how
Yes.
you do it when you are developing something new. There are standard designs where you don't need to do this kind of exercise. But for something new product, new equipment which you are developing, this is a must. So if I do a theoretical calculation, I cannot say that, oh, this is done. It is over. Now the equipment can be fabricated and can be sold. No, I cannot do that. And nobody should be doing that. That is an advice to young engineers, that if you are designing something totally new, then you should have a test bench to test the performance of such an equipment. Because paper design and practical design, sometimes there is a lot of difference, and you cannot have an equipment design on paper and claim it to be a success.
Yes.
9 out of the 10 times your theoretical design, when actually made into a practical one, may have a lot of issues related to performance and turndown and operations and practical difficulties. So a theoretical design has to be benchmarked against some existing system, or it has to be tested on a test bench on a pilot scale to make sure that the equipment is going to work at a larger scale, at a bigger scale in a process plant. So this is important. And I realize that a lot of young engineers think that I have made a design, it's going to work. No, it's not the way. For a new, some standard designs are there. There you can confidently say, like a two-phase separator, vertical two-phase knockout drum, all these are very standard designs. They are already established designs. So that is not the case. So this is what I wanted to convey to the young engineers who are probably, any one of you who is listening. Uh, this is how you are supposed to do engineering,
Yes.
especially for something which is new or which is novel design that you are trying to develop. So paper design, just you cannot be 100% sure. So that is one advice. Second thing is that it's not about all about money.
Yes.
Money is important. I don't work for free. That's true. But it's also passion. And in fact, it is more passion than money. How do you like your job? How do you like what you do? If you like something you do, you will succeed. I still enjoy it. I still love it. I still have a passion for it. The money is important, but it comes second. It doesn't come first. So uh, at my stage of life, uh, because I am practically retired, has money's importance has even gone down more. There was a time when I needed money, but even then, even at that time, there was more of passion towards what I was doing, spending hours and hours together trying to figure out solutions, trying to do calculations, how to do it. See, in the days when I started my engineering career, there were people, process engineers or chemical engineers, were not doing much of rotating machinery. Rotating machinery meant it was only pumps. You would do anything related to pumps, compressors, uh, fans, and all that. They used to be done by mechanical engineers or rotary engineers, rotary specialists. But then I developed an interest in doing engineering related to all types of rotary equipment, not only pumps. Pumps I was aware of, hydraulic calculation, but I developed an interest in all types of compressors. So now I see that a lot of people know a lot about compressors, specifically centrifugal compressors. And if you see on LinkedIn, there are almost every day you will find a post on centrifugal compressors. But
Yes.
then centrifugal compressors are not the only compressors. There are other compressors like reciprocating compressors and screw compressors. You won't find much about them. I mean, very less about other types of compressors. But I expanded my horizon by studying about other types of compressors than centrifugal. I know centrifugal compressors are the most popular ones or the most used ones, but even recip compressors and screw compressors are also are becoming very quite popular. Recip has been always there, but it had its own limitations. But for high pressure applications, for very specific applications, reciprocating compressors are still used and give better performance than centrifugal compressors. For low volumetric flow rates and high compression ratios, even now reciprocating compressors provide you a better option than a centrifugal compressor. Screw compressors are gaining a lot of popularity because of the simplicity of operation, and now with new designs of screws and all that, you can get very high compression ratios and volumetric flow rates also, medium range volumetric flow rate. So this kind of, now when I joined this company in Ahmedabad, uh, related to green hydrogen, for which I had given a, I had no idea about green hydrogen, absolutely no idea, nothing, fuel cells and electrolyzers. But as again I said, the passion, the the focus on learning something new. So what happened was I developed a fair bit of knowledge. I wouldn't say, because in fact, to be very honest, this the green hydrogen business is uh, is centric to two main equipments for production of green hydrogen, using electrolysis of water, alkaline or proton exchange membrane electrolysis. Uh, the core of the process is the electrolyzer. Then The other thing is the balance of plant. The balance of plant is nothing compared to other oil and gas and petrochemical processes. There is almost practically no engineering in the balance of plant. So the heart of the plant is the electrolyzer
Yes.
for green hydrogen production from water using solar power or any other renewable energy, and for production of electricity from hydrogen. The heart of the plant is the fuel cell. The fuel cell balance of plant is even negligible compared to the green hydrogen production from alkaline electrolysis or
Yes.
proton exchange membrane. So the balance of plant, what we call BOP in short, the challenges are very negligible for any process or any chemical engineer. It is the heart of the plants are the equipments, the electrolyzer and the fuel cell. Now that is somewhat of a closely guarded because that is technology related. Like when I was working in polyester, I could design the entire plant without knowing anything about how the reactor was designed, the main reactor, the main polymerization reactor, because we never had access or we were never told anything about the main reactor, and that was the
Yes.
heart of the plant. So the reactor for us was a box available given to us that
The
this is the
package.
reactor. You have to make the feed into it and you have to take out the products,
Mm.
the byproduct and the main product. So uh, many things related to technology are not known. And if you are trying to have something like a technology kind of startup, then you should know how to make those critical equipment. Most of us process engineers, chemical engineers are doing the balance of plant. And the balance of plant depends on the type of technology or the type of chemical you are producing. So we don't know the core of that. Now, even in the refining business and all that, how many process engineers or chemical engineers know how to design a FCCU or a delayed coker unit? It's you. If somebody says that yes, I have designed a FCCU, then he can actually sell the technology to somebody that's saying, yeah, I can do. But how many people are doing that? Because that is closely guarded technology. You don't know what is inside the FCC, you don't know how it is built, the tolerances inside the FCCU, you don't know the tolerances inside the delayed coker unit. So what you are doing is the balance of plant.
Yes.
No issues with that. You if you do the balance of plant, that itself is useful because no technology licensor is going to tell you that this is the way you design a delayed coker unit or FCCU. So what you are left out with is doing the balance of plant engineering. But that is fair enough. There are challenges in doing the balance of plant also. And people who are good engineers, chemical engineers, process engineers who are good at it, will always find that they are needed in some consultancy or some engineering company or the other. So this is what I recommend, that first you learn the basics related to the engineering of the balance of plant rather than jumping into the that technological marvel or that piece of equipment which is the heart of the plant, because nobody is going to give you any information and you will not even find it on the internet. There may be
Yes.
some scattered information, but then again, if suppose by chance, if you develop something, you again have to benchmark it because for you it is new. You have read it somewhere, some technical paper, and then you have tried to copy it from there. But how will you prove that the design you have made from that literature is going to work? So again, it needs to be benchmarked. So you need to test it on a smaller scale or something, and then so this is important. So rather than focus on that critical equipment for which you have very little idea, focus on the balance of the plant. That itself will provide a lot of challenges. That itself will make you do a lot of engineering, and that's fair enough. I mean, you should be proficient at these peripheral engineering activities also. And to to be honest, in the Western countries, nobody wants to do the peripheral engineering. So the lot of work which comes to India from technology licenses and big engineering consultants and all is related to the balance of plant. No issues. Do a fair job of it. Do a good job of it. Ask questions. And over a period of time, a level of trust. See, there is one more issue in India, like China. People will reversing if they share technology. There is no guarantee of that particular critical equipment will not be copied. Uh, these non-disclosure agreements, to be very frank, if I sign it has no legal sanctity in India.
Yes.
Anybody can violate it and get away with it. I sign a non-disclosure. Tomorrow I do something. I won't go to jail. The chances of me being taken to court of that itself is negligible. But let us assume that I am taken to a court of law for trial or for prosecution because I violated a non-disclosure agreement and I copied some trade secrets. I will not be prosecuted. I will not go to jail. The chances of me going to jail are almost zero. So that is why the Western companies don't want to share. Another thing, this is totally personal from my side. I don't use, see, we use a lot of software in process design. Almost everybody does, like Aspen, HiSys, Aspen Plus, and HTRI, and Aspen EDR, and ChemCAD. A lot of these softwares are available. I know for sure that in India, a lot of young engineers, consultants, even small engineering companies and consultants, they use a lot of pirated software.
Yes.
I am nobody's policeman. I am not a policeman. I don't want to do any moral policing. But personally, I find it a very abhorrent practice. I have no pirated. I have not used any pirated software. I have been only using software which is open source. For example, for developing small calculations and for um, physical properties, I use Coco, which is an open source software. So you must be aware of Coco. So it's open source, and I can get almost all properties from Coco. So I personally don't feel comfortable using any pirated software. But to be very honest, somebody had lured me many years back. Somebody had lured me to use some pirated Aspen software, and I had to face the music also for that. What was the music? My laptop, my machine was got infected with malware and viruses, and my machine got crashed. That was the first and the last time I use a pirated software, and then I made a promise to myself that I will never use a pirated software. And that was years back. Since then, till date, I haven't used. But I don't want to be a moral policeman. It is to every individual who wants to use, but there are consequences. Let me also share with you. If foreign agencies, where most of the software have originated, mostly the US, they get to know that you are using pirated software. There is every likelihood that if you apply for a visa and they are aware of it, you will be denied a visa, and they don't have to give an explanation for denying you a visa. If you are caught using pirated software in Western countries, you will definitely be prosecuted. You will face jail time.
Correct.
Or fine, or very heavy fines or penalties, if not jail time. So there are consequences. You can't get away. Probably in India, because there is not much of policing related to piracy and pirated software, and the anti-piracy laws are very weak. Uh, in India, a lot of people can get away with all this, but not in the West. You will not get away with this. You will face the music if you use pirated software, if you use uh, you know copyrighted stuff. You will face the music. But I still agree that a lot of stuff is floated on the internet that is open source, or it is what you call is not 100% open source, but partly open source, because you can you are somehow able to access it from the internet. Okay, I'm not talking of this software like Aspen and all that. I'm talking of books. I'm talking of technical papers. I'm talking of technical literature, which is available on the internet uh, through some links and all that. I use that. I will admit that I use that, and I am not to blame for that. Reason being, because it is the search engines or the Google and other search engines, they have not banned it. Somehow it is available through the internet. That book, that technical book, that technical literature, that technical paper is available through the internet. So you can download it and you can read it and you can uh, use it as a reference. I don't think that is a crime, and I I wouldn't consider it as a crime. Software is a different thing. So,
Correct.
but technical literature, technical books, and technical articles, and that I use and I have used, because otherwise, what is the use of internet? I mean, if I can't use the internet to gain further knowledge, then I am not keeping up with the times. So and I have developed a lot of stuff myself working for some organizations. I claim ownership to that, and I don't feel any regrets about telling anybody that I I developed it. It is my ownership, and I am free to use it. Okay, so but I normally what I do is I not it is some of the stuff. For example, I shared some standards related to on LinkedIn related to these ad-hoc standards which I had prepared. They were drafts, and this is a very old story. More than 15 years have passed. Okay, and they were drafts. So I don't feel guilty about sharing all that. And though that that stuff is, for me, it is totally legitimate to share. A lot of times, many people themselves on personal emails and all that, they send me stuff. I thank them, and I uh, use it in my library, put it in my library, and use it also. So it's okay. I mean, I don't want to uh, get into that mode of telling why did you send me. He has sent me in good faith, because the person, he or she has. So I don't mind technical literature, technical books, technical stuff being shared. And if somebody claims that okay, this is violation of copyright, he should go, and he or she should go and talk to the search engines, that
Yes.
why they are allowing this stuff to be on
Up.
the internet. So and again, I am not morally policing anybody who is using pirated software. That is their own personal lookout. If somebody wants to use it, it's his own personal. I don't use it, that's a different matter. So this is what I wanted to tell about using knowledge or using knowledge sources for enhancing your own, knowledge and doing your engineering work.
Correct.
So now I think it has
We are
been
running
going on
out
since
of
then.
time,
Yeah,
but
we
I
are
have,
well past the time. Anybody who has joined would like to ask some questions? Has anybody joined?
no. This is I have recorded this session, which after editing I will upload it on your YouTube and LinkedIn.
Okay.
I
So
have some
it's
question
a
to
one
ask.
to you please ask a question. Sure.
So my question, I have some 7 to 8 question. We'll do
Yeah, yeah,
rapid.
please. Okay, fine.
So my next question is, what is the story behind Ankur's chemical engineering blog, and how big is the
Oh,
community?
yeah. Nee, that story, Ankur's Chemical Engineering blog, yes, it started in 2010 when I was in PL Engineering. Actually, I didn't have answers to. Uh, I had a lot of questions in my mind, and I couldn't find the answers. Okay, so
Hmm.
then somebody advised me that there is a blog, there is a forum called CHE Resources, and then I joined it. Once I joined it, I realized that I started enjoying it a lot. So almost starting from uh, 2008 or 9, when I was doing this Tabudin job. So I started because I was learning a lot about oil and gas standard preparation. So I started posting questions on the CHE Resources forum, and a lot of people were there to help me and answer me questions. So I developed a huge interest in that. And then 2008 and all, 2009 and all, I started regularly posting questions, and then I decided that I am asking questions and getting answers, so I should help others. So that's how I started. And in 2010, the owner of CHE Resources, Chris Haslego, he he told me that he is going to start a blog kind of thing where people, engineers, can post their own small articles and all that. So my interest was developed, and then that's how I started. uh, I made the Ankur's Chemical Engineering blog on CHE Resources till 2000 15, 16. From 2011, uh, 2010, sorry, I have posted 155 articles. The viewership has already crossed 2 million. But then suddenly, 2016 onwards, there were a lot of, you know, virus attacks and, malware came
Yes.
into CHE Resources. And there were a lot of bad stuff happened on CHE Resources. And I realized that somebody is taking over CHE Resources, and there is a problem with CHE. So I slowly disengaged myself from CHE Resources and then got into LinkedIn. Okay,
Right. Correct.
posting articles on LinkedIn. So that is the story behind CHE Resources, Ankur's Chemical Engineering blog.
Correct.
Yeah,
I saw that in 2015 you have started the job of campus trainer in one of the chemical engineering college.
yeah. I did
So
some
what
training.
changes you have made in your mindset to do that job?
No, I had to study. Actually, the first time I was hired was see, after I left Pyramid in Thane in 2015, I was approached by for doing some freelance work by a company called Simulanis in Delhi. So they wanted to do some training courses for a college called Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, NIET, and they asked me to prepare. Anyways, I was quite already very fond of writing articles and making presentations and all that. So I agreed, and it was a paid assignment. So I said, fine, I'm doing nothing. So I did that, and uh, they paid me. It was a paid assignment, like a short-term assignment. So I made some lectures in I gave some lectures in NIET. That is how it started. Subsequent to that, I have done lectures. I did a lecture in one lecture that was not online. That was a classroom lecture in LD College of Engineering in Ahmedabad. And then I did two webinars for Nirma Institute of Technology in again in Ahmedabad. So this is what um, I was always inclined academically. So how it translated was that I did for the Saudi Arabian Engineers Forum also. I did two webinars. So this kind of thing. Then I did with you with for the green hydrogen
and
and
gas
for
turbine.
and gas turbine. So if somebody asks me, I do it. For Nirma, which I did, was it was a paid assignment. Okay. Uh, for the
So
Saudi and all, uh, it was free. Um, it was not a paid assignment, and I was not looking for that. I was looking to share knowledge with you guys. So
mm,
that is how all these things happen. And even now, I am available and open to do based on any topic given to me.
you
And
you
the
enjoy as a
paid,
train.
paid or unpaid assignments, depending on how my availability is. Always better if I get a paid, because that, see, if you are doing a paid assignment, it gives you a greater focus and you are
Correct.
much well prepared compared to an unpaid assignment. Okay.
Correct.
So pro bono assignments, people, I take interest in pro bono, but the point here is that when you are when you are being paid for your services, you are supposed to be more particular, more thorough, more
Yes.
accurate, more well prepared when you are doing a paid assignment, because then it is a question of the person who is paying you getting its worth of what is being shared. So there is a greater motivation in a paid assignment. See, I used to share a lot of free spreadsheets earlier. I have stopped it because I realized that uh, people don't are not very appreciative of free stuff,
Yes.
and they don't take it very seriously. And I never used to get even any feedback. So I have stopped now distributing free spreadsheets. I Now I ask, and when I ask for free, when I ask them for payment, it is very nominal payments. If 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 rupees is too much, then I don't think anybody deserves to have those spreadsheets. So because I know youngsters will spend a lot of money in buying clothes and going to restaurants and all that, where they will make bill of thousands. But if they can't pay 1,500, 2,000 rupees for a spreadsheet, then I don't think they deserve it. So it's fine, no problems. Yeah, please next.
So talking about change, flexibility, adaptability in this span of 4 decades, you have almost switched around 20 to 23 companies. So
Yeah.
how to adapt the switch, Tanvir?
About this now, there are two different points of view. Some people say that this guy. Some people would like to say hardly any stability. But there are two aspects to my career. One is circumstantial, related to my family, where if whatever said and done, family comes first.
Correct.
Job is important, but nothing comes before family. No job comes before family. So for me, my family is number one priority. My job, my profession is number two priority. So any circumstances which affect my family, which I have to first address that rather than my job and career. So some of these circumstances in my career have been personal circumstances related to my family, where I had to make some compromises and had to switch jobs or change jobs or leave jobs. So that were part of it. The other aspect is that, and you would be seeing so many posts on LinkedIn, that if you are not comfortable in an environment, if it's a toxic environment where you are working,
Yes.
some people can survive in a toxic environment. Some people don't mind it. Some people are highly adaptable.
Part of that
Yeah,
toxicness.
highly adaptable to toxic environments. I don't fit into any toxic environment. The moment I feel it's a toxic environment, I would rather sit at home rather than lose my peace of mind. So I will quit. I will leave the job. I leave the job, or there will be a circumstances. There will be some circumstances where I will speak my mind to somebody about what is happening. Uh, Whatever is happening is not correct, or there is something wrong with it. Maybe the other party, the company, the owner, somebody from the management will feel that, oh, this guy is too outspoken. So he may also tell me, he or she may tell me that, sorry, we don't want it. Fine with me, I don't mind it. I don't have to hide all these things at this stage of my life. So it is both ways. I feel I feel very uncomfortable in a toxic environment. I will immediately toxic, unhealthy, no development, no work, any such environment. I will leave my job. So and it is also true in the other way around that it is also true the other way around that somebody may find me too outspoken, uh, uh, not very subservient. You understand what subservient is? That man who blindly obeys orders or follows orders. Not that kind of a person. So in such a scenario, the other party, the owner, the management may feel that this guy is too tough to handle, or he doesn't he is not a very obedient kind of a guy. He speaks his mind. So they may also feel about this, that okay, we don't need such a person. So they may even ask me to leave. Fine with me. I'm I have no I wouldn't like to stick in an environment where I don't feel comfortable, or the other person doesn't feel comfortable about having me. So fine, I have no regrets, no issues. And the third part of it is, I think this concept of sticking into one company for 10 years, 15, 20 years is gone. That those days are totally gone. Nobody sticks around because you are confined into a very narrow. Uh, if you stick in a single organization, you are probably very less aware of what is happening around you in the world. So while I agree there have been a lot of disadvantages of switching organizations or changing jobs, there have been tremendous amount of advantages because my horizon, my learning, my scope of knowledge, my learning has been tremendous because worked with various organizations. So there are both pros and cons. Some lack of stability, somebody will say this loyalty issues, but loyalty is not one way street. No, loyalty is two ways. That means loyalty is, if I am loyal to the company should be loyal to me. So yeah, so that is the scenario. So I don't think that people today in your age group category would think of loyalty as a one-way street where you stick around the organization. Now let me ask you a question. Let's be very frank. I'll ask you a question. You are working in a company. Suddenly the company says we are not doing good business, so we are going to make you a 20%, 30% salary cut. How would you feel about it? You would feel quite unhappy, quite dissatisfied. The first immediate thought, I it's better to switch to another organization. Okay, so or you are working in a company where your boss, your immediate supervisor, is very abusive or very, his nature is his way of uh, behaving with you is very toxic, humiliating. Only maybe 1 or 2%, and specifically those who are incompetent people. Probably they'll incompetent person will think, I'm here, मैं पढ़ा हूँ यहाँ पे, it's okay, no problems. Uh, I can't switch to any other organization, so I have to listen to his nonsense, and I have to stay here because I have to run my family. I have to earn some salary, so it's okay with me. Let him abuse me. Let that person humiliate me. I don't mind. I will somehow survive. So that is one approach. But today's generation, your generation, Omkar, most of the engineers, most of the high educated youngsters will not accept this kind of behavior, even if the person is very experienced or senior. See, why I'm good at mentoring, because I'm also good at mentoring. I have mentored a lot of, because a lot of engineers who work with me, the youngsters, they feel very comfortable with me. They learn a lot from me. And while I do, I am sometimes quite caustic, but I am not caustic with my subordinates or with my juniors. I'll probably fight with people who are my direct colleagues or senior people for some issue, on an issue based thing. But I have always treated the youngsters, the fresh engineers or the young engineers as my own children. Sometimes children also need to be scolded, but then there is a way of doing that. So that is how it has happened with me. So all the teams where I have worked, whether I have pleased the top management or not, I don't know. But my juniors, my teammates, my direct team members have always been very happy with me. So that is the approach. Yeah, go ahead.
So my next question is, if you were not a chemical engineer, then what you would be?
Ah, oh, I wanted to be in the armed forces. I I fa- I failed in the medicals. I had passed the ND exam. I was rejected in the medical. I was very fascinated with army, Indian army. So that was initially when I was in 8th and 9th, I wanted to become an army officer. Okay,
If
I
you
don't think today, I don't think, but I still have a lot of respect for the Indian Armed Forces. But today, I think with my kind of brain and thinking, I won't fit into the Indian Army, because Army requires a different kind of mindset, disciplined mindset. So I don't fall into that category. Yeah, next.
correct me if I am wrong, your family and your cousins are from government jobs, right? So,
Yeah, I am the
so
black sheep of the family. Actually, my almost all my family members, cousins and all, my uncles and all, everybody, my father, even my father, everybody in government service. I didn't want to be in government service. I had some issues with government service because I had seen things which I didn't like about government service. So um, I my father also wanted me to be in a government job. I was never interested. In fact, he asked me to sit in a few exams, and I said no. We had a fight also. I had a fight with my father, but I said sorry, I'm not interested. I'll work in private sector. That's so that
did you
is.
ever feel that you are into the wrong field of this chemical industries?
Uh, Say it again. Sorry.
Did you ever feel that you are in the wrong field?
No. Initially, when I was in production after 5 6 years, I had become slightly frustrated about working in shifts and doing the same thing over and over again, and a little bit frustration had come in. But uh, since the time I joined into engineering design, I have never regretted, that I am a chemical engineer.
Okay. My next one is which is your best memory in this span of 40 years of experience?
From professional point of view, the preparation of company standards was the best as well as the worst. Best because my personal knowledge increased tenfold. Worse because I was blamed for doing work, really good work, because the schedules were totally had gone to for a toss. So it was both the best and the worst experience. Best from a personal point of view, worse from being made a scapegoat for the project completely losing track of time. So this is how I describe my experience.
So how did you overcome that toughest part?
The no, I once the drafts were ready and once I had felt comfortable that I had done a good job, uh, and it was a matter of coincidence that I received a call from my ex-boss that you come over and join us in Muscat in Mott McDonald. So it was time to cut off from that disappointing time where I was being blamed for not doing the work in time, and me telling them that the time frame which you had committed was totally false or totally wrong. So I overcome that by leaving and joining another company. That's it. But by that time, I knew I had done a
Good.
really good job, and I had personally gained a lot of knowledge.
When the most of professional like people keeping their political views personal, but you tends to criticize it
Now
social
that
media.
comes to now. Now I see. Initially, when I started out on LinkedIn, I was not. I did not see a lot of political posts and all that. Okay. So I was very happy about it. But now LinkedIn has become a totally politically motivated and messy folio. Plus, let me be very honest. I am a I'm I'm a little bit of I'm not 100% right wing, but I'm a little bit of a right wing guy. I have no qualms in admitting that. And I'm happy that from the time this government has come in, they have done some real good work, which previously I have seen so much of mismanagement and corruption. So yes, I agree that I am pro government at this moment of time. I was not very keen on doing this, but when I saw a lot of nonsense on LinkedIn and people making highly polarized and biased political posts, I realized that LinkedIn has become a mess,
Yes.
and some of these posts were very disturbing. So I also got into it. So it was like, uh, see, basically, in one way, what I would say that if you want to do a mud fight with somebody, you have to jump into the mud. You have to jump into the akhada. You can't sit outside and cry and say, देखो ये आदमी कैसा लिख रहा है, ये कैसा कर रहा है. You have to give him a reply.
Yes.
You can't keep sitting on the sideline crying, oh, LinkedIn has become a mess, these guys are making nonsense posts and all that. You have to sometimes you have to fight these people, a lot of this nonsense with semi nonsense. I normally when I say semi nonsense means part of what I say has some element of nonsense, but a lot of it makes sense. A lot of it is quoted with experience, quoted based on what I have seen, based on what I know, but based on what I have read. I may not be 100% right. That is the reason when I say I know what I get into this political reply and slugfest and political posts and memes and all that. That's why I said that mine is not 100% what you call truth or yeah. That's why I said that mine is what I categorize, what I say politically is semi nonsense. And most of the times what I see posted is pure nonsense. So I get into a fight with these people who are posting pure nonsense. Some of it, what I say, may not be 100% correct. So it qualifies to be called as semi nonsense. That's it. Nothing else. But I really wish to conclude on this question of yours that uh, LinkedIn stops all political posts. They ban everything what is political. So now LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, isn't it? So they should take cognizance and they should have some kind of a filter that wherever some political party leader something comes up, the post gets automatically deleted or something, or it is not allowed to be posted. I wish that. So I would also get into this. See, 90% of the times I don't post like that. I post mostly technical posts. 10% I have started, and that too in the last couple of years. Earlier, I never used to make political. If you see my old posts, you won't
Yes.
find political posts. They were mostly technical posts. Of late, yes, I agree, because I see a lot of nonsense that disturbs me a lot. So I feel that I have to vent out my frustration and anger also, seeing all that nonsense. So that is the reason. Yeah. Anything
So
else?
into the last question, this is my last question actually. The top three advice you want to give to young engineers of today's to become
Top
good
three advice.
student.
Top three advice. First, you want to be a process engineer. First, you have to have the passion. Money is number two. Second, be practical. Engineering, what we do, engineering is not 100% pure thermodynamics or pure. A lot of practical 100% pure fluid mechanics or 100% mass transfer or 100% heat transfer. There are mixtures of elements. You use it as a base, but don't make things very theoretical. There should be large amount of practical touch rather than theoretical touch. The
Correct.
theoretical part only helps you to do things quickly.
Or we can
uh,
say a realistic approach you have.
Realistic approach, that is the second thing. And the third thing is that uh, never think that you know everything. Be a student all your life. If
Be
you
open
if you go with
listening.
that approach, if you go ahead in your career with that I still have to learn so many things, I still don't know many things, then you will never fail. These are the three advices I would like to give.
Correct. So thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Well, you are welcome, Omkar, and it was a pleasure talking to you. So yeah, hope to see this on LinkedIn, the link and I wish, concluding, I wish, because we got through in touch, I wish LinkedIn takes a note of this and removes all this political nonsense from LinkedIn.
Yes.
I would be the first person to thank LinkedIn for making it a really professional platform than all this political nonsense which we see on. And unfortunately, I also got me getting involved in this political nonsense. I consider it as a misfortune for me, but I wish, but I also feel that sometimes you just can't ignore every nonsense. You have to
Yes.
reply back. So it's
How to
okay.
speak
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you
So
again, sir.
thank you to you, Omkar.